The forest moon of Talon Prime hung in the purple sky like a jewel. Its thick trees reached toward the stars, and strange flowers glowed softly in the darkness. This moon was home to creatures that most beings in the galaxy feared. The Kresh were the perfect hunters. They stood 3 meters tall with muscles like steel cables. Their claws could cut through metal and their teeth could crush bone. Their eyes could see in complete darkness, and their noses could smell fear from kilometers away. For thousands of years, the Kresh had ruled this moon. Nothing challenged them. Nothing escaped them. They were the apex predators, and every other creature knew to hide when they hunted. But today something new had come to their world, something small and soft and strange. Captain Hyunwoo checked his equipment one more time as the transport ship prepared to land. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gentle hands. His hair was beginning to show gray at the edges, but his spirit was still young. He had spent years studying alien worlds and their life forms. This mission was different, though. This time he had brought his family. His 8-year-old daughter Nari sat beside him looking out the window with wonder. Her dark eyes sparkled as she watched the alien forest grow larger below them. She pressed her small hands against the glass and smiled. "Look, Daddy. The trees are so big, and those flowers are glowing like little stars." Hyunwoo smiled at his daughter. "Yes, little one, this world is full of amazing things we have never seen before. But you must stay close to me and the others. Some of those amazing things might be dangerous." Nari nodded seriously, but her excitement was clear. She had always loved exploring new places with her father. She trusted him completely and knew he would keep her safe. Dr. So-jin sat across from them, reviewing her research notes. She was a brilliant xenobiologist who had studied alien life forms for most of her adult life. Her long black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her sharp eyes missed nothing. She had requested to join this mission because the reports about Talon Prime showed signs of highly evolved predator species. The chance to study them was too good to pass up. "The atmospheric readings are perfect for humans," she said, without looking up from her tablet. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth normal. Temperature is mild, but the bioscans show some very large life forms in the forest. We need to be extremely careful." Security Officer Taemin checked his weapons for the 3rd time. He was a compact man with quick reflexes and sharp instincts. His job was to keep the research team safe while they did their work. The reports about this moon made him nervous. Predators that stood 3 meters tall were nothing to take lightly. "I will set up a perimeter around our campsite," he said. "Motion sensors and warning alarms. Nothing will get close without us knowing about it." The transport ship touched, down in a clearing beside a small stream. The doors opened and the humans got their first real look at the alien world. The air was clean and sweet. Strange bird-like creatures sang in the trees above them. Colorful insects buzzed among the glowing flowers. It seemed peaceful and beautiful, but deep in the forest, something else was watching them. Vextar crouched, motionless in the shadow of a massive tree trunk. His black scales blended perfectly with the bark. His yellow eyes tracked every movement of the strange new creatures as they unloaded their equipment. He had been hunting for over 200 years and had never seen anything like these beings before. They were so small, so soft. They had no claws or fangs, no armor or natural weapons. Their senses seemed weak compared to his own. They moved slowly and made noise as they worked. They were clearly prey animals, but unlike any prey he had ever seen. The largest of them seemed to be the pack leader. He directed the others and they followed his commands. The female had the scent of intelligence about her. She studied everything with careful attention. The smaller male carried weapons, but Vextar could tell. He was no real threat. His movements were too stiff and predictable, but it was the smallest one that puzzled Vextar the most. It was clearly a cub, young and helpless, yet it showed no fear at all. It ran around the clearing laughing and playing while the adults worked. Did these creatures not understand that they had entered the territory of the greatest hunters in the galaxy? Vextar watched as the humans set up their camp. They erected strange shelters made of flexible materials. They placed devices around the perimeter that hummed with electronic energy. The armed male seemed especially proud of these devices. He did not realize that Vexitar could easily avoid them. The pack leader called the cub to his side and spoke to it in gentle tones. The cub nodded and helped carry supplies. Vexitar tilted his head in confusion. Among the creche cubs were taught to hunt from the moment they could walk. Weakness was not tolerated. Yet this cub seemed to exist only to play and explore. As the alien sun began to set, the humans gathered around a device that produced heat and light. They shared food from containers and talked in their strange language. The cub sat close to the pack leader, who wrapped his arms around it protectively. Vextar felt hunger begin to stir in his belly. He had not eaten for 3 days. The hunt was calling to him. His instincts demanded that he strike while these soft creatures were distracted. The logical choice was to take the cub first. It would be easy and quick. The others would panic and become even easier targets. He began to move through the forest toward their camp. His massive claws extended and his muscles coiled for the attack. Every step was silent. Every movement was controlled. He was death itself, moving through the shadows. The electronic devices meant nothing to him. He knew how to move between them without triggering their sensors. The armed male was facing the wrong direction. The others were focused on their meal and conversation. It was perfect. Vextar reached the edge of the clearing and prepared for his final approach. The cub sat just meters away with its back turned. One quick strike would end its life before it could even cry out. Then he would take the others one by one. He gathered himself for the leap that would begin the slaughter. Dawn broke slowly over Talon Prime. The alien sun cast long purple shadows through the forest as it climbed into the sky. Strange morning birds called to each other from the treetops. The air was cool and fresh with the scent of unknown flowers. Vextar had not moved from his position all night. He remained perfectly still in the shadows just beyond the human camp. His yellow eyes never left his chosen target. The small human cub would be his first kill. After 200 years of hunting, he knew patience was the key to a perfect strike. The humans began to stir in their shelters. The pack leader emerged first and stretched his arms toward the sky. He looked around the clearing with careful eyes, but did not see the death that waited in the shadows. The female came out next, carrying her strange devices. She immediately began studying the plants near their camp. The armed male checked his warning devices and seemed satisfied that nothing had disturbed them during the night. He did not know that Vextar had circled their entire camp 3 times, without triggering a single alarm. The technology these soft creatures relied on was useless against a true predator. Finally, the cub appeared. She ran from her shelter with the boundless energy that only the very young possess. Her dark hair was messy from sleep, and her clothes were wrinkled, but her eyes were bright with excitement about the new day. She carried a small bag on her back that bounced as she ran. Vextar felt his hunting instincts sharpen to a razor edge. Every muscle in his powerful body tensed for action. His claws extended to their full, deadly length. This was the moment he had waited for. The moment when he would prove once again that the creche were the ultimate predators in the galaxy. The cub wandered away from the others toward the edge of the clearing. She seemed drawn to a patch of glowing flowers that had opened with the morning light. She knelt beside them and reached out to touch their petals with gentle fingers. Her back was turned to the forest. She was completely vulnerable. Perfect. Vextar began his final approach. Each step was calculated and silent. He moved like liquid shadow between the trees. His breathing was controlled and steady. His heartbeat remained calm despite the excitement of the coming kill. This was what he had been born for. This was what he was made to do. The cub picked one of the glowing flowers and held it up to examine it closely. She smiled at its beauty and tucked it behind her ear. Then she sat down cross-legged in the soft grass and opened her small bag. She pulled out some kind of wrapped food item and began to eat her morning meal. Vextar crept closer. He was now less than 10 meters away, close enough to see the individual strands of her hair moving in the gentle breeze, close enough to hear her humming a soft tune as she ate, close enough to smell her strange scent that was unlike any creature he had ever encountered. The other humans were busy with their work and not watching the cub closely. They felt safe in their ignorance. They had no idea that death stalked their young one. They would learn too late that their soft world had not prepared them for the harsh realities of the galaxy. Vextar positioned himself directly behind the cub. She continued to eat her food and hum her little song. Occasionally, she would look up to watch the colorful insects that danced among the flowers. She seemed to exist in a bubble of innocent joy that was about to be shattered forever. Tepar. Great Predator rose to his full height of 3 meters. His shadow fell across the clearing, but the cub did not notice. His claws gleamed in the morning light. His muscles coiled like massive springs ready to unleash their devastating power. Every instinct screamed at him to strike now, while the target was perfect. He raised his arms above his head with claws spread wide. One downward slash would end the small life instantly, clean and quick, the way a true predator killed, no pain, no fear. Just the natural order of hunter and prey playing out as it had for millions of years. But then something impossible happened. The cub turned around. She looked up at the towering form of death itself looming over her. She saw the razor claws poised to end her life. She saw the yellow eyes that burned with predatory hunger. She saw the black scales and powerful muscles that marked Vextar as one of the most dangerous creatures in known space. And she smiled. Not a smile of fear or terror. Not a grimace of panic or desperation. A genuine warm smile of pure delight. Her dark eyes sparkled with curiosity and wonder. She tilted her small head to one side, as if examining an interesting puzzle. Vextar froze completely. In all his centuries of hunting, no prey had ever reacted this way. They ran. They screamed. They fought. They begged. They cowered in terror. They never smiled. They never looked at him with curiosity instead of fear. The cub said something in her strange language. Her voice was soft and musical like the sound of water flowing over stones. She did not seem to understand that she was looking at her own death. She acted as if she had discovered something wonderful and new. Then she did something that shattered every hunting instinct Vextar possessed. She reached into her small bag and pulled out a wrapped food item similar to what she had been eating. She held it up toward him with both hands like she was making an offering. Her smile grew even brighter, and she wiggled the item invitingly. She was trying to share her food with him. Vextar stared down at the tiny creature in complete bewilderment. His mind struggled to process what was happening. Prey animals did not share food with predators. It went against every natural law he understood. It was impossible. Yet here it was happening right before his eyes. The cub continued to hold up the food and speak in her gentle voice. She seemed to be encouraging him to take it. Her entire posture was open and trusting. She showed no fear at all of his massive claws or towering size. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, Vextar hesitated. His killing strike remained frozen in place, his yellow eyes locked with the dark, innocent eyes of the human cub. And somewhere deep in his predator mind, a tiny voice began to whisper that perhaps these creatures were not prey animals after all. Vextar stood like a statue carved from black stone. His deadly claws remained frozen in the air above the small human cub. His mind raced, but could find no explanation for what was happening. In 200 years of hunting, nothing had prepared him for this moment. The cub continued to hold up her wrapped food with both hands. She made soft, encouraging sounds in her strange language. Her head tilted from side to side as she studied his face. She seemed to be waiting for him to take her, offering. When he did not move, she wiggled the food more enthusiastically, and her smile grew even brighter. What was this creature doing? Why was she not running? Why was she not screaming? Every prey animal in the galaxy knew to fear the creche. Even other predators gave them wide space. Yet this tiny, soft being acted as if he was something wonderful to discover. The cub said something that sounded like a question. Her voice carried the musical tones that young creatures used when they were happy and excited. She pointed at the food and then at him and made gestures that clearly meant she wanted him to eat it. Vextar felt something he had never experienced before. Confusion so complete that it paralyzed his every instinct. His predator programming told him to strike. His hunger demanded that he feed. But something deeper and more primitive whispered that this was wrong, that this small being was not prey at all. The sound of footsteps came from behind him. One of the adult humans was approaching. Vextar knew he should spin around and eliminate this new threat, but he found he could not take his eyes off the cub. She had created some kind of spell over him that held him in place. Dr. Sojin emerged from behind the research equipment carrying her morning coffee. She was reviewing data on her tablet and not paying attention to her surroundings. She looked up absently to check on Nari and saw something that made her blood freeze in her veins. A massive alien predator loomed over her daughter with claws extended for a killing blow. The creature stood 3 meters tall and was covered in black scales that gleamed like armor. Its yellow eyes burned with intelligence and deadly purpose. Its muscles were coiled and ready to strike. But it was not moving. So Jin felt her scientific mind kick into high gear even as terror flooded through her body. She could see that the predator was confused. Its body language showed hesitation and uncertainty. Something had disrupted its attack pattern. Something had made it pause. That something was Nari. Her daughter sat cross-legged on the ground, completely unaware of the danger above her. She held up a snack bar toward the creature and spoke to it in the same gentle voice she used with stray cats. She was trying to feed it. So Jin realized that screaming would only trigger the predator's killing instincts. Any sudden movement or loud noise could restart the attack. Instead, she began to walk very slowly toward them. Each step was careful and measured. She kept her voice calm and quiet. "Nari, sweetheart, what are you doing?" The little girl turned toward her mother without lowering the food offering. Her face was bright with excitement and discovery. She had clearly decided that this massive predator was some kind of new friend. "Mama, look. I found a big kitty. He looks hungry, so I want to give him my breakfast bar. But he is being shy. Maybe he does not know what it is." Nari turned back to the predator and spoke to him again in encouraging tones. She unwrapped part of the snack bar to show him the colorful food inside. The sweet smell drifted up toward Vextar's sensitive nose. The scent was completely foreign to him. His diet consisted only of fresh meat from his kills. He had never encountered anything like this processed food that combined fruits and grains and artificial sweeteners. The chemical signature was complex and interesting. Despite himself, he found his nose twitching as he analyzed the strange smell. Sojin continued her slow approach. She could see that the predator was still confused and off balance. Its hunting routine had been completely disrupted by her daughter's innocent behavior. This was the most fascinating xenobiological event she had ever witnessed. She wished she could record it, but did not dare move quickly enough to reach her equipment. "Nari, you need to come to Mama now. Very slowly. Do not make any sudden moves." But Nari shook her head stubbornly. She had decided that the creature needed help, and she was going to provide it. She had always been drawn to animals and had never met one she could not befriend. In her young mind, this was simply a very large animal that needed kindness. "He is scared, Mama." Look at how he is shaking. I think he has never seen people before. We need to show him that we are nice." Vextar was, indeed shaking, but not from fear. His entire nervous system was overloading as it tried to process conflicting information. Every genetic program told him these were prey. Every learned behavior said to kill first and investigate later. But every observation suggested something completely different. The adult female moved with intelligence and caution. She understood the danger, but was not panicking. Her approach was calculated to avoid triggering his attack response. She was thinking several steps ahead like a predator would think. The cub showed no fear at all, but also no aggression. She offered food freely with no expectation of receiving anything in return. Her body language was completely open and trusting. She acted like a pack member sharing resources with another pack member, but humans were supposed to be weak prey animals. The reports from Kresh scouts had been clear. They were soft and slow and had no natural weapons. They relied on tools and technology because they were too weak to survive on their own. They were perfect prey for a skilled hunter. Yet nothing about these creatures matched those descriptions. They showed intelligence and compassion and social bonding that rivaled the Kresh themselves. They offered friendship where other species offered only violence or submission. Vextar slowly lowered his claws. He could not complete the kill. Something fundamental had shifted in his understanding of the universe. These creatures had challenged everything he thought he knew about prey and predators and the natural order of things. Nari saw his movement and clapped her hands together happily. She thought he was finally going to accept her gift. The sound of running feet echoed across the clearing. Taemin burst from behind the equipment shelters with his weapon drawn and ready. He had heard Dr. So-Jin's voice and sensed something was wrong. What he saw when he reached the open area nearly made him drop his rifle. A massive alien predator stood over little Nari with claws that could slice through steel. The creature was larger than anything in his combat training files. Its black scales rippled with powerful muscles, and its yellow eyes burned with deadly intelligence. This was exactly the kind of threat he had been hired to stop. His finger moved to the trigger as he raised his weapon. One shot to the head should be enough to drop the beast before it could harm the child. He had trained for this moment his entire military career: protect the civilians, eliminate the threat, ask questions later. But before he could fire, Captain Hyunwoo appeared beside him and grabbed the barrel of his rifle. "Stop. Do not shoot." Taemin stared at his employer in shock. "Sir, that creature is about to kill your daughter. We need to act now before it is too late." Hyunwoo studied the scene with the careful eyes of someone who had spent years in first contact situations. He could see that something extraordinary was happening. The predator had clearly been in a position to attack, but had chosen not to. His daughter was trying to feed it. Dr. So-Jin was approaching slowly without panic. "Look at its body language, Taemin. It is confused, not aggressive. It had the perfect opportunity to strike, but something stopped it. Something made it hesitate. That something was your daughter." Hyunwoo felt his heart skip a beat as he realized what was happening. His 8-year-old daughter had accidentally initiated first contact with an alien species, not through technology or diplomacy or military force, through simple human kindness. "Lower your weapon, slowly. Any sudden movement could restart its attack program." Taemin reluctantly obeyed but kept his rifle ready. He did not understand how his captain could be so calm when death stood just meters from his child. But he trusted the man's judgment. Hyunwoo had successfully managed 12 first contact situations without a single casualty. Dr. So-Jin continued her careful approach toward Nari and the creature. She was now close enough to see the fine details of its construction. The scales were not just armor, but contained sensory organs that could detect heat and chemical traces. The claws were not just weapons, but precision tools capable of delicate manipulation. This was not a mindless beast, but a highly evolved apex predator. Nari, sweetheart, I need you to listen to Mama very carefully. Put the food down on the ground between you and the big animal. Then very slowly stand up and come to me. Nari looked at her mother with disappointment. She had been enjoying her new friend and did not want to leave him alone. But she had been taught to obey her parents when they used their serious voices. Okay, Mama, but can we invite him to breakfast? He looks really hungry and I think he would like our scrambled eggs. Despite the tension of the moment, Sojin almost smiled. Her daughter's ability to see potential friends where others saw only danger was both her greatest gift and her biggest worry. We will see, sweetheart. First, we need to see if he wants to be friends. Nari carefully placed the wrapped snack bar on the grass exactly between herself and the towering predator. She patted it gently as if encouraging him to take it. Then she stood up very slowly and backed away toward her mother. But she kept talking to the creature in her soft, encouraging voice. It is okay, big kitty. The food is for you. My mama makes the best breakfast in the whole galaxy. Maybe you can try some if you want. Vextar watched the small human retreat, but felt no urge to pursue. His hunting instincts should have triggered the moment prey began to run. Instead, he found himself focused on the strange object she had left behind. The sweet chemical scent was stronger now and seemed to call to his curiosity. He had never encountered processed food before. His species ate only fresh meat from their kills. But something about this offering intrigued him. The small human had given it freely without asking for anything in return. Such behavior was unknown among the creatures of his world. Slowly and carefully, he crouched down beside the wrapped food. His massive claws could have shredded it instantly, but he found himself being unexpectedly gentle. He did not want to destroy something that had been given as a gift. He picked up the small package and examined it closely. The wrapping material was artificial, but not threatening. Inside was a dense bar made from compressed organic materials. Fruits and grains and other plant matter had been combined with sweet binding agents to create something completely new. Hyunwoo watched the creatures, careful examination of his daughter's gift, and felt a surge of professional excitement. He was witnessing something that had never happened before in recorded galactic history. A predator species was accepting food from potential prey. The implications were staggering. Sojin, are you recording this? Every second. This is going to revolutionize our understanding of interspecies contact. Vextar brought the food close to his nose and breathed in deeply. The scent was complex and layered, sweet compounds that triggered pleasure centers in his brain, fruit acids that made his mouth water despite himself, grain proteins that his body recognized as nutritious even though he had never tasted them. Tentatively, he took a small bite. The explosion of flavor was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The sweetness was intense but not overwhelming. The texture was soft and yielding instead of the tough meat he was used to. Chemical compounds he had no name for danced across his tongue and triggered responses in his nervous system. It was delicious. Nari saw him taste her gift and clapped her hands together with joy. He likes it, Mama. Look how his eyes got big. I think he has never had a granola bar before. Vextar finished the entire snack bar in 3 careful bites. When it was gone, he felt something he had never experienced before. He wanted more. Not because he was hungry, but because he had enjoyed the taste and texture. The concept of eating for pleasure rather than survival was completely foreign to his species. He looked up at the small human who had given him this gift. She was smiling at him with pure happiness. Her parents stood behind her, ready to protect her, but not showing aggression toward him. They were treating him like a visitor rather than a threat. For the first time in his life, Vextar began to wonder if there might be more to existence than hunting and killing. These soft creatures had shown him kindness without expecting anything in return. They had offered friendship where other species offered only fear or violence. Maybe the reports about humans had been wrong. Maybe they were not prey animals at all. Maybe they were something entirely new in his experience. The morning sun climbed higher in the alien sky as an impossible scene played out in the clearing. A massive predator sat peacefully beside a human research camp, while a small girl chattered to him about breakfast foods. Her parents and the security officer watched in amazement as their understanding of the galaxy shifted with each passing moment. Vextar found himself studying the humans with new eyes. The small cub continued to speak to him in her musical language, even though he could not understand her words. Her tone and gestures made her meaning clear. She was happy. She was friendly. She wanted to share more food with him. The adult female approached with slow, careful steps. She carried a small device that made soft beeping sounds. When she pointed it at him, the device displayed streams of data. She was studying him the same way he had been studying them, with curiosity instead of fear. Remarkable. His bio-readings show elevated stress, but not aggression. His brain activity suggests complex emotional processing. This is not a simple predator at all. This is a highly intelligent being. Dr. So-Jin spoke to her family while keeping her eyes on Vextar. She had studied hundreds of alien species, but had never seen anything like this. The creature showed self-control and decision-making abilities that rivaled any sentient species in the galaxy. Hyun-woo stepped forward carefully. His years of diplomatic experience told him this was a critical moment. First contact situations could go wrong very quickly if handled poorly, but they could also lead to amazing partnerships if managed with wisdom and respect. "Can you understand us?" he asked in a calm voice. Vextar tilted his massive head to one side. The sounds the pack leader made were different from the musical tones of the cub. More complex and structured, it seemed like he was trying to communicate specific information rather than just expressing emotion. The great predator opened his mouth and made a sound deep in his throat. It was not the roar of aggression that his prey usually heard. It was a questioning rumble that carried curiosity and intelligence. Nari clapped her hands together with delight. "He is trying to talk to us, Papa. I think he wants to be friends, but he does not know how to say hello." The sound of movement came from the forest around them, heavy footsteps and the rustle of massive bodies moving through the undergrowth. Taemin raised his weapon again and scanned the tree line for threats. His military training screamed that they were about to be surrounded by hostiles. "Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from all directions. Large creatures moving in coordinated patterns. This could be an ambush." But Vextar did not seem alarmed by the approaching sounds. Instead, he threw back his head and made a series of complex vocalizations that echoed through the forest. The sounds carried meaning and purpose. He was calling to his own kind. The first of his pack emerged from the shadows between the trees. Another massive creche predator with scales of deep green instead of black. Behind it came more. 5, 10, 15. An entire hunting pack moved into the clearing with deadly grace. The humans pressed closer together as they found themselves surrounded by apex predators. Each creature stood 3 meters tall with claws, like steel blades. Their eyes burned with intelligence, and their movements spoke of perfect coordination. This was a pack that could take down prey many times their own size. But they did not attack. Instead, they approached Vextar and gathered around him in a circle. They made soft, questioning sounds and touched him with their claws in gestures that seemed almost gentle. They were checking to make sure he was unharmed. They were asking what had happened. Vextar spoke to his pack in a series of rumbles and clicks that carried complex meaning. He gestured toward the humans and made sounds that seemed to indicate they were not threats. He showed them the empty wrapper from the snack bar and made gestures that suggested sharing food. The pack looked at the humans with new interest. Their body language shifted from hunting mode to curious observation. They had never encountered creatures that offered food instead of fighting or running. The concept was so alien that they needed time to process it. Nari stepped forward despite her mother's whispered protests. She reached into her backpack and pulled out more snack bars. She had packed extra food for their day of exploration. Now, she held them up toward the gathering of predators with the same trusting smile she had shown Vextar. "Here, big kitties. I have more food for everyone. These ones are chocolate chip. They are my favorite." She began to unwrap the snack bars and place them on the ground in front of each creature. Her movements were confident and unafraid. She treated the deadly predators like friendly pets that needed feeding. The pack watched her actions with growing amazement. Never in their long history had prey offered them food. Never had any creature approached them with kindness instead of terror. This small, soft being was doing something that challenged everything they understood about the natural order. One by one, they began to taste the offerings. The sweet processed food was as foreign to them as it had been to Vextar. But the flavors were pleasant, and the gesture of sharing created feelings they had no words for. Gratitude, friendship, connection. Dr. Sojin continued recording everything while her scientific mind raced with implications. She was witnessing the birth of an entirely new form of interspecies contact, not through conquest or submission, but through mutual respect and sharing. Hyunwoo, this changes everything. These creatures are not mindless predators. They are a sophisticated social species with complex emotional responses. They can choose cooperation over conflict. Hyunwoo nodded as he watched his daughter distribute food to creatures that could have killed her with a single swipe of their claws. Instead, they waited patiently for their turn and made soft, appreciative sounds when they received her gifts. The question is what happens next. They know we are here now. They know we have things they have never experienced before. Will they see us as friends or as resources to exploit? Vextar seemed to understand that the pack leader was concerned. He approached the human family slowly with his claws retracted and his posture non-threatening. When he was close enough, he carefully extended one massive hand toward Hyunwoo. The gesture was clearly meant as some kind of greeting or offer of peace. His yellow eyes held intelligence and what might have been respect. He was showing that he understood the gift the small human had given him and wanted to return the favor. Hyunwoo looked at the extended claw that could have cut him in half. Then he looked at his daughter, who was giggling as she fed chocolate to creatures that were supposed to be the most dangerous predators in known space. He thought about all the first contact protocols he had studied and realized that sometimes the best approach was the simplest one. He reached out and gently touched the tip of Vextar's extended claw with his fingertip. The moment of contact sent a surge of understanding between the two species, human and Kresh, predator and prey. Two forms of intelligence reaching across the vast differences between them to find common ground. In that touch was the beginning of something that would change both their worlds forever. 3 months later, the clearing on Talon Prime looked completely different. What had started as a simple research camp had grown into something that defied all expectations. Human structures stood beside Kresh dwellings in the first truly integrated settlement between the two species. The impossible had become reality. Vextar stood on a platform overlooking the growing community. His pack had voted him as their liaison to the humans after the events of that first morning. The decision had been unanimous. He was the one who had first tasted their food and felt their kindness. He was the bridge between two very different ways of understanding the galaxy. Below him, he could see Nari playing with 3 young Kresh cubs near the central fire pit. The cubs were each twice her size, but they moved with careful gentleness around their small friend. She was teaching them a human game that involved throwing colored stones into patterns. They were teaching her how to track prey through the forest, without disturbing a single leaf. The sight still amazed him. Predator cubs and prey cub learning from each other, sharing games and laughter as if the deadly differences between their species did not exist. Perhaps for them, those differences truly did not matter. Perhaps only adults created the barriers that separated beings who could have been friends. Dr. So Jin approached the platform carrying her ever-present data tablets. Over the past months, she had become the expert on creche biology and psychology. Her research would revolutionize xenobiology for generations to come. But more than that, she had become a genuine friend to creatures who had once been considered mindless monsters. The food synthesis project is ahead of schedule, Vextar. We should be able to produce culturally appropriate nutrition for both species within the week. No more rationing the snack bars. Vextar made the rumbling sound that humans had learned meant amusement. The memory of that first shared snack bar still brought him joy. Such a simple thing had changed the course of two civilizations. The young ones ask for the chocolate variety every day. I fear you have created an addiction among my people. Sojin laughed. Nari asks for fresh kalat meat every morning. You have returned the favor. Who would have thought that predator and prey would end up sharing each other's diets? Captain Hyanwoo emerged from the communications center with news that made his face glow with excitement. The first official ships from Earth were finally approaching Talon Prime. Months of reports had convinced the human government that something unprecedented was happening on this remote forest moon. They will arrive tomorrow morning. 3 ships, with diplomats and scientists, and enough supplies to expand our settlement into a proper colony. Are your people ready for this, Vextar? The great predator nodded his massive head. His pack had spent weeks preparing for this moment. They understood that more humans meant more complexity, but also more opportunities for friendship and learning. They had voted to welcome the newcomers as they had welcomed the first small family. My people are ready, Hyunwoo. But I wonder if your people are ready for us. The reports you sent painted us as dangerous predators. Now your diplomats will find us caring for human children and sharing meals. Will they understand how much we have all changed? Hyunwoo thought about the transformation he had witnessed over the past months. The creche had revealed themselves to be deeply emotional and social creatures. They formed strong family bonds and cared for their young with tender devotion. They had complex traditions and art forms that spoke of a rich cultural history. Most importantly, they had chosen to protect the human researchers instead of hunting them. When other predators had threatened the camp, the creche pack had fought fierce battles to keep their new friends safe. They had proven their loyalty with blood and courage. I think they will be surprised, but humans adapt quickly when we see genuine friendship offered. Your people have shown us kindness we never expected to find among the stars. As evening approached, the daily gathering began around the central fire. This had become their most treasured tradition. Humans and creche would sit together sharing stories and food as the alien sun set behind the forest canopy. Language barriers were slowly disappearing as both species learned to communicate. Nari ran up to her father carrying a small wooden carving. One of the creche artisans had been teaching her their traditional sculpture techniques. Her small hands were not yet skilled, enough for fine detail, but her enthusiasm made up for technical limitations. Look, Papa, Vextar taught me how to carve the friendship symbol. I want to give it to the new people when they arrive tomorrow, so they know we are all friends here. The friendship symbol had emerged naturally from their shared culture. A circle, representing unity with extending branches showing growth and connection. Both species had begun incorporating it into their art and architecture. It was becoming the mark of their new alliance. Vextar approached the fire carrying fresh meat for the evening meal. Hunting had become a shared activity with humans providing technology and strategy, while creche provided strength and natural skill. The partnership made both groups more effective than they had ever been alone. As the fire grew brighter and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, the community settled into comfortable conversation. Stories were told in both human languages and creche vocals. Children of both species played together in the flickering light. Adults shared plans for expanding the settlement and dreams for the future. Tai Min sat cleaning his weapons with careful precision. Over the months he had gone, from suspicious security officer to trusted protector of both species. The creche had taught him hunting techniques that made him a far better soldier. He had taught them military tactics that improved their natural abilities. Sir, I recommend we establish a formal defense pact with the creche leadership. Other human colonies are going to need protection as we expand into this region of space. Having apex predators as allies instead of enemies gives us a significant advantage. Dr. Sojin looked up from her research notes with excitement. The biological compatibility studies are showing remarkable results. Both species can eat modified versions of each other's food. Our medical techniques work on their physiology. Their healing methods accelerate human recovery. We are more similar than anyone imagined. As the night deepened, Nari fell asleep, curled, up against Vextar's warm flank. The massive predator remained perfectly still so as not to disturb her rest. His yellow eyes watched the fire burn lower, while his mind wandered to thoughts of the future. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as more humans arrived. There would be fear and suspicion to overcome. Some on both sides would resist the changes that friendship had brought. But tonight there was peace and contentment in their small community. The child who had offered him a snack bar had given him something more valuable than food. She had given him hope. Hope that the galaxy did not have to be divided between predator and prey. Hope that different species could choose cooperation over conflict. Hope that kindness was stronger than instinct. Years from now, when historians studied this moment, they would write about the political implications and the scientific discoveries and the strategic advantages of the human-creche alliance. But Vextar would always remember it simply as the day a small human cub smiled at a monster and offered to share her breakfast. That simple act of kindness had changed two worlds. It had proven that the greatest strength was not in claws or weapons, or technology, but in the willingness to see friends where others saw only enemies. It had shown that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was the open heart of a child who believed that everyone deserved a chance to be good. As the fire burned down to glowing embers and the forest moon turned through its ancient rotation, the first truly integrated community in galactic history settled into peaceful sleep. Tomorrow would bring new adventures and new challenges. But tonight they were simply friends, sharing the warmth of a fire under alien stars. And in the morning, when the ships arrived from Earth, they would find not a dangerous predator world, but a thriving partnership that would serve as a model for peaceful contact throughout the galaxy. All because one small human child had believed that even monsters could be friends if you offered them something sweet to eat.